there was a time in this country, a long time ago, when reading wasn't just for fags, and neither was writing. People wrote books and movies that had stories, so you cared whose ass it was and why it was burning, and I believe that time could come again.
Hello and welcome to the Think Liberty podcast. This is episode 47, and I am Tom Brady's hairline. Joining us on this episode, we have one of our regulars, Caitlin Cloven. Let's get this out of the way. Caitlin, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good. Glad to be back on. I think I missed last week. I was in a coma.
Yeah, she overslept. Caitlin slept for like 4 days, so she missed a podcast.
Yeah, I never sleep, so it catches up to me like once a month.
Well, you say you never sleep, but you missed a podcast because you were sleeping. So,
well, it caught up to me on an unfortunate day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So also joining us on this episode, we have two new guests. Go ahead and get used to them because they will be joining the Think Liberty Network here. First, we have Amos Joseph with the podcast Shitlord Preachers that will be joining the Think Liberty Network. Amos, how are you doing this evening, buddy? Thanks for joining us.
Doing all right. Thanks for having me on. And thanks for having us part of Think Liberty.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're happy to have you. And before I ask you a little more about yourself and what you do and what your podcast is about, we'll go ahead and introduce Mike too. So Mike Ursery is going to be joining us in his podcast. He doesn't have one yet, but he's making one for our network, and it's going to be the Liberty Ginger. So how you doing, Mike? And thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike, the name might be familiar. Probably seen Mike's pieces on our website. You've been contributing for a bit now, right?
Months.
Yeah, he's been contributing for a good while. So if you read our site regularly, then I'm sure the name is somewhat familiar. So let's go back a little bit. Amos, why don't you tell us a little bit about Shitlord Preachers and what exactly you guys do?
So Shitlord Preachers was started last year. We're on 26 episodes right now, but we're going to be, of course, starting from the beginning again once we join up with Think Liberty. But it was started up between a friend of mine, Brooke Potter. He also has a YouTube channel. Him and I. He's a libertarian over in the UK, and pretty much got me on board with libertarianism. And as we had a lot of these conversations over the phone, we would talk like 3-4 times a week, sometimes for an hour and a half. And we realized a lot of these conversations would be pretty cool if we put them in some sort of a podcast format. So we started up, for the first 3 episodes we didn't know what name to come up with, but I liked the, I guess, the shitlord, the word shitlord, and then we both also had a ministry background, so we knew each other through ministry, and we were both former ministers. So we came up with Shitlord Preachers. We figured that would be a good, I guess, iconic name to stick. So,
are you still in the ministry?
I am not anymore. No, he and I both stepped away around the same time from a network of ministers we were part of. Was it due to the Shitlord podcast, or was there other reasons? No. We had left that back in late 2014, actually. So he and I were both active pretty much between. I mean, for me, I was in ministry from roughly 2011 all the way through late 2014. So traveling, speaking at events. And Brooke had his own thing going on. We had met each other through I would say in some ways a former mutual friend, although we consider him to be a friend. But there's a whole can of worms on our experiences with ministry and how that actually kind of reflects the same way politics. Just a lot of the same things you see in politics. The craziness definitely is the same in religion as well. So.
How would they have, if you wouldn't have left? Do you think they would have been receptive to the fellow Padres? I've started a new podcast. You guys just wait until you hear the name.
No, I mean, a big part of our shift into politics was because of our shift away from religion. I mean, if we had continued doing what we were doing, we probably wouldn't have. I honestly, as a minister, didn't see politics as a worthy topic to be getting into. The phrase that I used was, it's a petty affair of man. So I never felt it was important enough, because I kind of got really turned off by the typical sort of hard conservative right Christian sort of view. That was pretty strong growing up, and I kind of just like got burned out from that.
Sure. Okay. That's fair. It's an interesting background you got there, and I can't wait to get some of your content up here, and so people can get to know you a little bit better. Mike, how about you? Let's get the same kind of question. I know you don't have your podcast isn't already established, but what did you plan on covering with the podcast that you're about to roll out here on the network?
My podcast is going to be a news roundup type of podcast. To have me in the so I'll take all the most relevant news stories, all the most relevant current events, do a news roundup type show. Okay,
that sounds pretty good. That's something we've needed to get the news roundups. I always, but at the same time, like, man, what are we gonna do now, Caitlin, when we can't think of anything, and we're not going to be able to do our current event stuff because Mike's going to have it covered.
That's always our fallback. We're going to have to get creative and pick some different topics. So you can have it all covered.
What if we did like just the Mike's recap, the Liberty Ginger recap show? we're just going to talk about some stuff that Mike already talked about.
So our new fallback will just be going through and summarizing all of the shows from that week, and just kind of giving teasers, be like, make sure you subscribe to all of these. Yeah,
that's okay. We'll figure it out. All right, fair enough. So we have some topics. Speaking of not having any ideas, I like how I gave it away right before I was about to announce that we will be doing a current event show. So, shocker, we had trouble figuring out what to cover, so we're doing a current event show. But thankfully, U.S. politics at the moment is a total shit show circus. So there's, throw a rock, and there's something to talk about going on in the news cycle. But before we get into it, man, I'm sure people have heard about how about this Facebook purge? I will start with you, Caitlin, since you pretty much got your finger on the pulse of all things.
All things Facebook.
Yeah, all things social media. What are you hearing? How do you feel about what was it, 800 or so pages that got the hammer?
Yeah, over 800 pages and 251 personal accounts that were associated with the pages. It's ridiculous. They took down Anti-Media, Free Thought Project, all the Cop Watch pages. These were serious pages that had millions of likes. And then it even trickled down to these really small pages that didn't really make sense, like Punk Rock Libertarians, V is for Voluntary. And it's a lot of people who are pretty close to us in the Liberty page family. A lot of us are pretty close. We talk about social media stuff, how to network between each other to boost our own presence on social media, stuff like that. So it kind of hit home a little bit with a few of those pages, but it's pretty shitty of Facebook. Obviously, yes, they have the right to take them down, and that's not being disputed, but it's still really weird how they went about doing that. It turns out a lot of them had shared admins. So what we do with Think Liberty is we have a page network. So I'm connected with a lot of other page admins, and we coordinate share for shares. These larger pages were doing the same thing, except they made each other admins of all of the pages in the network. So that's how they took down all these pages in this weird domino effect. And so many of them got hit because they were admins on everyone's page. So the Facebook admins saw this as, okay, so this person who got flagged is admin on 250 pages here, and they're all sharing the same content. So they just knocked them all down. No more, and they completely unpublished them, that you can't get them back. It's not like you're banned for a week kind of thing. No, they're gone. So yeah, that was an issue.
Do you know of any of the other factors that went into pages getting targeted, just in case anyone's listening and they're like, wow, I hope my page doesn't get totally annihilated?
Yes. There are several different criteria that they were looking at. So don't have any fake accounts on your page as an admin. No Slack accounts, no backup accounts, nothing like that. If you do need to transfer ownership to a different account, make sure you take your old one off, because sometimes people get zucked and they can't run their page. That's unfortunate. But you can just transfer ownership to a different account. Don't have multiple fake accounts on there. Another thing is don't spam. So don't have your page admin share posts in groups. That's another thing they were looking for, especially the super hard Trump pages. Like, you see this all the time in Republican groups. You'll have some MAGA Trump page share the same article in like 10 groups with the same caption, and you can tell that this is just spam posting. Don't do that.
What does Facebook have against America being great again? What's the problem? So maybe Mark Zuckerberg's sick of winning.
Yeah,
he doesn't like the winning.
Clearly.
Yeah.
It's funny about Zuckerberg though, because a lot of these pages are getting in trouble for things that they've been allowed to do. It's like, why would you even allow them to have these features in the first place if you don't want them to use them, like sharing in groups or running ads? That was another thing, is running political ads. Even though that they have to go through a review process and they were getting approved, they still get shut down for running multiple ads. I thought that was really strange. Like, why would you even approve the ad in the first place if you're going to take the page down for it? It's really weird. I know some of the pages didn't really fall in any of the criteria for misleading information, spam posting, profiting from misleading political information right before the midterms. I've known there were several pages that didn't fit any of the criteria. So I'm wondering if there are other things that they weren't telling the public for reasons they were taking them down. But I will never know, because Facebook never tells the whole story.
That's true. They're going to play it close to the vest, and we're never going to find out. They're just going to have to do our best to mind our P's and Q's and not get nuked.
Yeah.
How about you, Mike? Have you been observing this the Facebook crackdown? Do you have any opinion on it?
Well, one thing I'll say is that I understand the reason they gave, but at the same time, a lot of these pages that were unpublished, spamming ads. So I don't know if maybe they just got caught up in some kind of algorithm that Facebook might have used, or if there was something else with why some of these accounts are now gone.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like Caitlin said, in some of these instances, it seems like you can tell. And then in others, it's like, oh, why'd they get hit? That doesn't make any sense. How about you, Amos? Any input on this one before we move on from the topic?
I mean, it's what was it? I think we heard there was like 800 pages that were kind of banned all at the same time, or unpublished, I should say. And
I think it was like 500 something pages and 200 something personal accounts. So it's like the 800 number is, I believe, a mixture of a bunch of.
Right. It's just it's further kind of proving at least the suspicions that these social media companies are coordinating in some way to purge their platforms of ideas, and it just makes them that much more, I guess, unappealing to those who believe them to be at least some platform of freedom, of sort of a free marketplace of ideas. You have these ideas, these pages, these Facebook pages that are promoting certain ideas that they don't like. And instead of sort of picking, the smart thing, not that I would advocate for this, but the smart thing would be to pick them off one by one in small groups so no one notices. But instead they decide, hey, let's just purge all 800, however many, all at once, and hope no one notices. and that's not going to hurt their credibility as a open platform.
Oh, they noticed. But
it's like you're not doing yourself any favors here. So,
and what I have seen, Caitlin, you can correct me here or keep me honest if this isn't true. But what it seems like is after this has happened, they've opened it up a little more now for other pages. Like, I don't know about other pages, but I know for like Think Liberty, we've been getting more volume since this happened.
We have, and I'm not sure if it's correlated or not, but within the last 6 months, page reach and engagement and just overall traffic to Facebook pages has dramatically dropped. Like, everyone's hurting. The big pages, everybody. It's been a huge problem. But ever since this happened, we've gone up like 50% in engagement and reach, and I'm not exactly complaining, because my job as social media directors, get as much of that as we can, and it's been pretty good. I don't know if it's related, but it's very possible. They may have bumped pages up a bit in the algorithm now that they think they've taken down the bad actors. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, it is unfortunate that they took so many of those pages down, but it wouldn't suck if that was the case. Now they opened it up a little bit for some of the people in the space that are still there. It would be nice to not be getting throttled ridiculously. I do think it's funny too. Like, people are going on and on about, right, get yourself over to MeWe and Minds and all of this. And right. Like, so I think those platforms are cool. And I think that there is merit, to maybe having a presence on there for sure. But I was talking about this with someone the other day. Like, isn't the idea of being on Facebook not so you can talk to other libertarians? Like, as much as people will wax on and on about how like libertarianism is an echo chamber, I really think that actually the goal for a lot of libertarians or a lot of libertarian outlets is to get that message out to the people on Facebook that are not libertarians, right? To get
Absolutely.
That's at least our goal, is to get the message out there to as many people as possible. And what exactly, like, what do you solve by staying on MeWe or Minds, right? You're just going to go somewhere and it's just going to be hey, you know what, bro? Taxation is fucking theft. Fuck yeah, it is. Good. I'm so glad we're on MeWe. Yeah. This is so cool.
Yeah.
This is great.
8 other people on the platform are like, fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah. 10 other libertarians like this. This is fucking great. This is so much better. We're killing it.
Google Plus.
Here's the thing with everybody Google talking about moving platforms. Like, okay, show me one platform that has 2 billion users, and then I'll move. Like, this is our market, and the thing is, like, users aren't leaving in mass droves. Only content creators are. Facebook is cracking down on content creators, and the average user really isn't affected by it, so they're not going to be leaving. You're just going to go to other platforms with more content creators and more competition. So stay on the platform that has 2 billion users and users that check their profiles like 4 times a day, and you still have a chance of reaching a huge amount of people, even if your reach is getting throttled by algorithms or your videos aren't getting as many views as they would on another platform. They're still going to see a lot more people than a platform that has 250,000 users worldwide.
Right. Well, and it's the amount of people that see it too. Like, the whole point is, right, like, if you go on these other places and let's say you put your stuff out there to an audience, it's the kind of audience that you're going to get, right? Like, if it's just going to be a bunch of other libertarians, I mean, like, then there's your echo chamber, right? That's exactly what people accuse the movement of being, which it really isn't, right? I feel like most places are trying to get outreach so they can influence the social conversation here on a larger scale, but unfortunately, Facebook's got us by the balls, because that's where all the people are. So, and it's the same with Twitter, and that's why people get mad, because it's funny because people sit there and they get like, oh, it's just social media. Like, why are you getting so bent out of shape? Well, people get bent out of shape because they're trying their best to get this message spread and make this content to put it out so people can learn. And it's frustrating to have these giant mediums where everyone's on, just throttle and kick it down and try and hide the content. And it makes it very difficult indeed. And then you see, folks like Alex Jones, and what was one of the bigger ones that got the Free Thought Project, I think. Yeah,
that was one of the biggest. Free Thought Project and Anti-Media.
Yeah.
That was another huge one.
Yeah. So they got taken down. But Turning Point's still there. Good news, everybody.
Yeah.
Turning Point.
And Occupy Democrats is still there, in case anyone's wondering.
Yeah.
Owning the libs, man.
Owning the libs.
Well, actually, a bunch of left-leaning pages did get taken down as well, which, libertarians are like, oh, this is a conspiracy against right-wing. No, it's not. Just a conspiracy against non-corporate media. I wouldn't even say conspiracy, because they did kind of warn us that it's going to happen.
Good times. Good times. Okay, so does anyone have anything else they want to contribute to the discussion as far as the Facebook nuke goes before we move on from that?
Can I say one thing? You were saying how we don't want an echo chamber like Facebook. As far as getting our message out, this is really our best shot at getting the message out, being on these large social media platforms, because we don't really get any airtime with mainstream media, or any large media for that matter. So yeah. You're exactly right. It's exactly, exactly the case. It's frustrating because no one ever wants to admit, like, yeah, man, if they squashed us, we'd be totally boned. But it's true. There's not much you can do except play by the rules and hope for the best. So we'll move on. You get the sorry about that. Still getting over being sick a little bit. So if you hear me coughing or clearing my throat, that's what that is. I apologize in advance. So we have the Saudi Arabia situation. I know, Mike, you've got a piece coming out on the website soon about it. So I figure you would be the best person for explaining a little bit about what's going on there exactly with the Saudi Arabia situation. I'm sure enough people have been seeing the headlines at this point. So let's see if we can get a little bit more information and discuss it. Yeah, this if this is played out the way that is played out, it is terrifying. Jamal Khashoggi, I hope I'm saying his name right, is a Saudi Arabian journalist. The last thing he was doing before his disappearance, he was a columnist for the Washington Post. To the Saudi Arabian consulate in Turkey with his fiancée. His fiancée is Turkish. They had plans to get married. He went to the consulate there to file marriage paperwork. Walking into the consulate, he was never seen walking out. Saudi Arabia has that they had nothing to do with this. Turkey is saying that Saudi Arabia is responsible for his disappearance. They're saying that he was killed inside the consulate. A Turkish newspaper, actually called the Daily Sabah, 15 Saudis who they say around the time that Khashoggi was in Turkey, flew into Turkey on 2 private jets, went into the consulate, met him there, interrogated him, and then left. The reason for why they think Saudi Arabia did this, Khashoggi was very critical of the Saudi Arabian government. Saudi Arabia has done this before. Anyone who is a dissident, they will try to silence them if necessary, and this is the case here.
So basically, the gist of it is you get this guy. He's a reporter, right? Or something like that, like a journalist. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So You get this guy who goes in to get what it sounds like marriage papers into the consulate.
Yep.
Never comes out. It's pretty obvious that something's not right there. And then you had everyone come out. And so at first, Trump, what was his position? Like, well, whatever.
With Trump, dicey for the U.S. Now, how the U.S. and Saudi Arabia have that weapons deal that was signed last year. It was like $110 billion up front, and over 10 years, it's $350 billion. Senators have asked Trump to pull out of that weapons deal. But his reasoning for it is that to pull out of that deal, Saudi Arabia is only going to pay money to either he named Russia and China. He said that money will go to Russia or China, and Saudi Arabia will be buying weapons from them. Now, he didn't say what it will be, but he said that if Saudi Arabia is responsible for this, then the punishment would be, quote, a very severe punishment, end quote. Didn't say what that was. Be sanctions on Saudi Arabia.
And we got Saudi Arabia basically saying that if they get hit with sanctions, they're going to swing back. So we get the makings of a real barn burner here.
Things could get really hairy here pretty soon.
Yeah, this is just fantastic. This is tough,
got all
man.
the makings of an international.
What's that? You cut out a little bit there at the end, Caitlin. You say that again?
It just seems like it's got all the makings of another international crisis. Like, we've got, problems from China and Russia again, or disappearance of one guy. Like, obviously it's a terrible tragedy that he disappeared, but we're going to threaten war again over something like this. What does this have to do with that?
Well, it's
frustrating. War.
It's one of those things, man. It's like, it's weird. You read about, like, this is on a couple levels. Like, on the first level, it's like you got a journalist walks into a consulate and he doesn't walk out, and there's all this outrage. Like, I feel like we hear about, like, tons of innocent kids getting killed by the Saudis all the time.
Right?
And why?
Like, why are we focusing on this guy when there's, like, a starvation genocide going on in Yemen? We have Saudi Arabia killing journalists every day. There's humanitarian crises all over the Middle East. Why? Why are we posturing just for this thing?
Maybe it's because it was
so important.
Maybe it's because it was like so obvious or something. Amos, what were you going to say, buddy?
I was going to say maybe it's because it sounds like a bad joke. A journalist walks into a consulate.
Doesn't walk out. World War III.
Doesn't walk out. His name's Jamal.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding.
Jeez. All right. Took a turn. What's that?
Yeah. Something about him not walking out. Saudi Arabia has said that he did leave the consulate. His fiance was waiting outside while he was in. She never saw him come out. The consulate has surveillance footage of him walking in. They have no footage of him walking out. No one saw him leave, but Saudi Arabia is still saying that he left the consulate on his own. Yet he's nowhere to be found.
That's pretty bold. Like, we have absolutely no evidence, but he totally left. I swear. You have to.
I do love the approach here. You go like, okay, look, listen, we've seen the video. He went in, he didn't come out. And then I could just see it now. Like, the guy, he's in the courtroom, leans up to the mic. Yes, he did. No.
Hey, hashtag believe Saudis.
Right. No, he didn't come out. We saw the footage. So for the next 48 hours, we've watched the footage. He didn't come out. No, he did. He did come out.
We have a calendar with a written account of him leaving.
I have a piece of paper here. It's written down. Let me just check it.
That they have proof that Saudi Arabia did murder. They're saying that they have video and audio footage. All the news reports I've read cited U.S. officials who said that they have not or heard any of the evidence, but that the Turks have told them about it. They said that there is audio footage from his Apple Watch that he was wearing at the time that picked up. So
this is very. I can see it now. They're in the courtroom. They're playing. Okay, we're going to play the audio for you now. We have this audio that we found that proves that you killed this man. They play it. You can hear the guy getting killed by what is obviously Saudis. See the Saudi takes a drink of his water, leans back into the mic. No, that's not true. He left. No, he left shortly afterward. Okay, we have the audio.
Wait a minute. Okay, so we have a government who supposedly killed this guy. And the government's supposed to be super smart. They didn't turn off the dude's Apple Watch before killing him. What?
To be fair, I'm not sure the Apple Watch turns off unless the Apple Watch wants to turn off. I think we know how.
Well, they could have taken it off or something, like knowing that, hey, this is an electronic device that transmits.
Hey, buddy, we're gonna murder you.
Probably not a good idea.
We're gonna murder you. Can you do me a favor and take off your Apple Watch? Oh yeah, sure, no problem. I'm sorry. Sorry, I don't want to make this hard for you. Okay, so that'll be interesting.
Sorry to me.
How reliable are the Saudis and how reliable are the Turks? Who are you going to believe? I mean, that's where we are right now.
Well,
I believe the Apple Watch.
You believe Saudi?
Well, I think it's interesting. I'd like to see whether the U.S. actually acts before seeing or hearing that evidence, and instead of just taking the Turks' word for it. Because, I mean, that's kind of what we do when it comes to issues in the Middle East. Like, someone says, oh, this person did something. Okay, here's some bombs.
That would be kind of funny, though. Yeah. Like, because if you think about it, right, like the whole rhetoric that everyone that's in charge right now in Washington has been like, you know, if there's no evidence, then there's no we can't believe stuff without evidence. And then they turn around and Turkey's like, yeah, we heard a recording. Can we hear it? No, but it's there. All right, let's drop some bombs. It's like, wait a minute. wait, this is
that is pretty ironic, the whole Kavanaugh thing. And then you have, you know, last year with the chemical attack from Assad, everyone's like, oh yeah, it was totally Assad. Didn't wait for evidence, just carpet bombed an airfield.
Yeah, evidence doesn't matter when people's lives are on the line. It just matters when the Supreme Court needs a judge. Then evidence is important, but when it comes to dropping bombs, that's fine. We can just go off hearsay for that. Sounds good. I like it a lot. Okay. What a fun topic. Does anyone have anything else on that they want to throw in on before we move from that topic?
I saw an article tonight from this Saudi publication called Al Arabia. Never heard of it before, but came across it tonight. And as far as what I was saying about who do you believe, Saudi Arabia or Turkey, the person who wrote this article, he was saying that if the U.S. were to put sanctions on Saudi Arabia, and for one thing, they could raise their oil prices to as much as $200 per barrel to retaliate, which I don't know how much of an effect that would have. That was interesting was that whenever they're trading oil, he said they could possibly take it off the dollar and put it onto another currency. Actually do that? I don't know. Would that be if that were to happen?
So how funny would that be if they did it and then they backed it with Venezuela's currency? And
how bad would that be?
They're an OPEC.
Isn't that what Maduro did? Like, he took it off the dollar and then just all hell broke loose.
Oh God, I don't remember exactly the chain of events. I don't believe it came after it was taken off the dollar. There was a lot that went into it, but wouldn't it be ironic if they were like, you know what, we're gonna use the Venezuelan currency, and then they prosper, and it's all because they decided to take retaliatory efforts. It'll be interesting see how this folds out here. But I hear that I guess the stock markets are going pretty crazy out there in light of all this information. So, there's some activity here caused by these headlines. It's going to be interesting to see where exactly this leads in the future. When can we expect that article you've been working on, Mike?
That should drop this coming Saturday.
Okay, we got Killian's running a tight ship these days. He's got everything like scheduled out. We can't even write about current events right now. If we wanted to, we'd have to wait. Like Killian's got things scheduled out like 2 weeks in advance now. Running a tight ship.
2 weeks, yeah.
Jeez. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's good. We're gonna World War III. That should be fun. How about Kanye and Trump? Let's move on and talk about some Kanye and Trump, because that was a whole lot of fun. I don't even think anyone needs to explain this, right? So Kanye takes the MAGA hat to Washington, and he gets a chance to speak with Donald Trump. Does anyone want to give a little input to that one?
You hear Kanye's rant inside the Oval Office?
I didn't. Enlighten us.
Well, I don't speak Kanye, so what he was saying just did not make sense. There were a lot of things, like for one thing, he said that his favorite superhero is Superman, and whenever he put on the MAGA hat, he felt like Superman, and he said that Trump gave him a Superman cape. He talked about this.
Okay.
He talked about this gang leader in Chicago, Hoover, and he said that in an alternate universe, he is Larry Hoover, and that's why he needs to free Larry Hoover from prison. It was just a very strange rant.
This is that's a little much. Yeah. I can see.
So basically, Kanye made as much sense as Trump during a rally, is what you're saying.
Kind of.
Just a whole lot of words and not a lot of meaning.
Well, if we're using the economic success of tariffs as our barometer of accuracy, one could make the proposal that Kanye has got a better batting average at this point than Trump. At least we can't prove that he isn't this Hoover fellow. We know for a fact that the tariffs are not going gangbusters.
That is a good point.
Yeah. So what we've been seeing on the media, I mean, look, granted, it doesn't sound like Kanye is working with a full box of tools here. But with that said, some of the stuff I've heard from the media has been pretty outrageous when it comes to this situation. Have you seen like some of the stuff that CNN said?
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah, that is outrageous.
Basically, if Fox had said it, they may have been shut down. It was bad. One of the pundits or correspondents or whatever that you want to call him, he said Kanye was basically an uneducated Negro. Like, in those words. Said this is what happens when Negroes don't read. Wow.
Dude, that is horrible.
Yeah.
That is horrible, right? Like, didn't
But he was black though, so it's okay. That's the response that I've gotten from Democrats. Like, I'm in a few crack groups, and I dropped the article in there just to kind of gauge their feelings on it. Like, how do you respond to this blatant racism? Oh, it's not racism because the guy who said it was black. Black people can't be racist. What? Oh, okay. Well, that's fine then. Let's just. What if it was a black person on Fox News who said that? There would be outrage. But no, it was CNN, and this guy was black, and he was voting on the right side, so it didn't matter.
Well, according to Democrats, if you're not a Democrat, you're not black anymore. I think that's essentially the consensus at this point that I've learned from paying attention to the news cycle, is that if you're not on the left, then you give up your status as a person of color. Apparently, this is essentially what I'm gathering here.
Absolutely, you get called an Uncle Tom at house. whatever. It's just horrible, horrible racist names. And it's not racism because they vote for racists. So it's totally okay to call them racist names. And you never get an explanation from these people why it's okay. They just say, oh, well, Trump's a racist, so get to be one too. I don't understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's where we're at politically, right? Is with the discourse here in American politics right now. It's just pretty much like the justify and enable Olympics, right? Like, because so if someone somewhere behaves badly, then you are now justified to do the same. I mean, look at Hillary Clinton, right? What was it, just a couple days ago? She was saying, like, look, we're not going to be civil until Democrats have majority, or something along those lines. Like, there's no reason to be civil right now, or something like that. Did you guys hear this comment she made too?
Basically, she said there's no reason to be civil with those who want to destroy you or destroy your ideas or something. She's, it's just furthering the misrepresentation that the left is not capable of violence while the right is somehow is committing more violence nowadays. When I see that it's not true at all. The right definitely has their violent offenders, but it's nowhere near the left.
Well, I mean, look, there's violence. Violent people are going to be violent, right? Extreme political ideas. We're just at a point where people on both sides will get violent about it. So you've got the situation, obviously, in Charlottesville. That wasn't great. And like when people get run over by cars. But since then, I mean, there's been reports on the left and the right of people with, I mean, just what you got this fucking roundhouse kicking guy at the abortion rally.
Cuck Norris?
That was the worst
Cuck Norris
roundhouse kick I've ever seen.
I love the tongue, sticking this tongue out before he gets around to it. It's a joke. Oh my God, that was bad.
And he was so bad at it, he actually kicked her. He was like, oh no, I was aiming for your phone.
That's still not okay.
So great.
Right. Like aiming for the phone makes it better.
Right.
Hey, that's...
Yeah, like you still kicked a lady. You can't. It doesn't matter what you meant to do.
It was really funny. Like if you watch the whole exchange, like it didn't escalate a lot. Like they weren't like screaming at each other right before. Like it was just like
he just decided.
They had a few back and forths, and then all of a sudden, like roundhouse kick to the face. Wow,
so I'm gonna kick
that escalated quickly.
It is funny because she was like, well. He said something and she's like, no, I wouldn't murder the baby. And you could see like he just made the decision. I'm going to kick this bitch. And he and the tongue comes out.
When you're such a soy boy and you have such low testosterone levels, the slightest elevation is going to make you flip.
I guess.
It's something, and I guess that's not the first time he's done that. I was reading some articles. It's not the first time he's become violent.
Well, it kind of says something to these political extremes, though. Everything's become so polarized lately. That kind of stuff attracts the crazy people. It attracts the violence. It attracts those who seek drama and high tension areas so they can be violent and it can be somewhat justified. So, I mean, you have this crazy alt-left and the crazy alt-right. You're going to get some freaks come out of the woodwork and be like, oh, hey, so we're cool with violence now? Like, awesome, I'm going to join up.
Well, and what's interesting, too, so for the libertarians, not of the crazy, some of the more extreme libertarians, not that. I'm not talking about that stuff, but, for the most part, man, libertarians are pretty battle hardened in discourse, I would say, right? Like we don't have a lot of friends when it comes to having discussions in public forums. We don't have opinions that most people agree with us on. So like we're kind of used to that, right? Like we're pretty much used to like going into conversations, knowing that we're going to be at a place where we have to explain ourselves and we have to convince people because most people aren't going to be that way. And it's just insane that the level of discourse for a lot of people in this country right now is at the point where they can't, like, I feel like this is like the natural outcome of just not being able to hear an opinion that you don't like. Like, it's happened long enough, and the left has spent so much time in these echo chambers where they congratulate themselves for having their extreme opinions and cheering each other on, that when you get out into the public and you meet other people with different opinions, this is what's happening now. Like, this is the outcome of deciding that you don't want to hear other people's opinions. It's when someone says something that you don't like, you're gonna roundhouse kick them.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty reactionary on both sides. You've had Democrats and moderate Republicans in power for so long, and now you have this batshit crazy Cheeto in office, and the left doesn't like this. They're like, hey, we want Obama back, or someone like Obama, and they've gone apeshit, and the right's gone apeshit too. It's really interesting to see all this like play out in public. Everyone is so political now. Before, it was only a select few that were political people and really involved in activism. It's like now you can't find somebody who is involved in politics or care about politics.
Yeah, hey,
crazy election season.
Love Trump or hate him, I feel like people were not as involved in politics before the 2016 election.
Yeah.
And now everyone is involved in politics. So
it's going to make 2020 really interesting. I'm guessing there's going to be the highest voter turnout in probably recorded history. I mean,
I'm dreading 2020.
Yeah.
I don't want 2020 to come.
So speaking of 2020, did you guys see the headline floating around lately where I guess they did a poll of a bunch of Democrats that could potentially be running for 2020, and Biden sat at the top of it? Mm-hmm. By like 33%. I think second was Bernie at 13%, which is significantly lower than where Biden was at. And my buddy Kamala Harris just behind Bernie at 9%. So I think that's actually interesting, though. That's pretty indicative, I think, of what most people kind of think of this radical left that's coming around right now. I think more people probably would have assumed that Bernie would have done better there, but it's Biden,
because he's the sane one. He's been there before. He has the experience, and people idolize him for some reason.
Biden is the sane one. Well, it's just gotten so crazy to the point where anyone that's like somewhat moderate at this point, they're like, oh, okay, you're not. That's like you said. He seems like the sane one. I hesitate to call Biden sane, but. Yeah.
Are we basically, are the Democrats basically wanting another creepy guy in the White House? They felt,
like
we're overdue for another Clinton.
God, I don't know.
I'd prefer Biden to Clinton, though. I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, because the Clintons, a Clinton in office is a package deal. That's the problem there.
Yeah.
Right. So you get Bill, you get Hillary, you get Hillary, you get Bill.
I'm the second.
But if you get Chelsea, though.
No,
I'm all set. Mike, what were you saying there, buddy? I'm sorry.
Is Hillary Clinton going to run in 2020? She and Bill are going on that speaking tour. Is this because she's getting ready for another campaign?
If she knows what's good for her, she won't.
I hope not.
Even Democrats are sick of her. They want her to just go off into the woods somewhere and be forgotten. They're done with her. She wasn't even included in this poll, which I was really thankful to see her not in this list.
Lock her up. Have you guys seen the Hillary's America, the documentary by Dinesh D'Souza?
No, it's on my list.
Yeah, I recommend you guys check it out. I was I stumbled across some Dinesh D'Souza videos the other day on YouTube as I heard about this documentary, so I figured I'd go check it out, and I did just that. You can get it most places. I got it on Sling. I rented it for like $4 and watched it. It's a good documentary. If anyone listen, I recommend you go check it out. But yeah, so what's interesting about this poll is I was reading, it's actually a CNN article. I was reading it, and they were saying that since Biden is leading by so much, actually a lot of people are thinking that Trump takes it in 2020, kind of based on what the Democratic, folks are looking like that they're putting forward there. So, when CNN's saying that, that's, yeah, it's crazy to sit here where we sit today with the temperature of politics in America and go, boy, things are about to get crazier. I feel, is that possible at this point?
Yeah, you'd think after Trump, he would be like the top of the crazy, but no, it's like, it's just getting started. Like looking forward to 2020, it's a little nerve wracking because something big's going to happen.
Right. The worst part is that, like, we can't say that something big has already happened.
Yeah.
This is really where we're at. Okay. Sure. All right. Got it. Okay. So, another piece we have here. Have you guys heard, you know what? I got two things we can cover. Maybe we can go into both. No, let's go with Cornerstone Caroline. Have you guys heard of this? Are you guys hip on Cornerstone Caroline?
Yeah.
That was so ridiculous.
So for our listeners that might not be hip, Cornerstone Caroline. So now we've got all of these other ones. Do you remember the other two, Caitlin? It was some Becky.
Barbecue Becky and Permit Patty.
Permit Patty. And now we got Cornerstone Caroline. This is, by the way, on behalf of white people everywhere, I'd just like to say, do better. Okay, middle-aged white women, please do better. So this new one, I guess this woman was in a supermarket. I've seen the video. This 9-year-old boy walked past her. So if you've seen the video's already out, so they have the video out, and you can see the video to see what happened to yourself. The boy didn't touch her. Right? He walked by her, and he had a big backpack on. And she immediately turns around and starts accusing this little 9-year-old boy of grabbing her ass. And then, she goes out and outside the store, and she's on a phone calling the cops, trying to get, I don't know what done. Did she think the cops are going to come and arrest a 9-year-old boy?
They actually, the cops came out and said that no phone call was received from that location at that time. So she was faking the 911 call.
She was Oh, this is fantastic.
It gets better. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
she faked the 911 call.
Wasn't the child also, wasn't it like a mixed or like a black kid?
He was a 9-year-old black kid, yeah.
Yeah.
Who had his 6-year-old little sister with him, his mother. Yeah.
Yeah, they just walked past.
And then she went outside yelling, this child just sexually assaulted me.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's funny too is like, I do love it how like they're just so used to this craziness at this point. The dude just pulled out the camera. He's like, you gonna be famous? Oh, I'm gonna make you go viral, you stupid woman. And then she just sits there and just doubles down. This is sexual assault. He grabbed my ass. It's okay. All right. Cornerstone Caroline. Here we are again. It's just something else. Okay. We don't have to stay on that too long. We've talked about the last two, so I just wanted to make sure that we gave Caroline her 15 minutes of fame here as well. Can you imagine?
Yeah, once that video came out, she was part of a press conference, and she's like, "Oh, well, I guess he didn't touch me. Sorry." It was just very like, "Oh, well, that sucks."
Yeah, she issued some kind of an apology or something like that. I feel like the damage has already kind of been done though. Once you
yeah, you don't come back from that.
Once you make that big of a scene about something and you fake a call, come on.
Right? That was just the best part.
Oh.
You think that kid will ever make Supreme Court justice? Probably not. Not
at this rate. No, she's going to come. I don't know though. She looked pretty old, so she might not make it to the confirmation hearing. So he's got that going for him, if that's the case. We still have a little bit of time here. We can go into it. Have you guys heard about this, the Harvard affirmative action lawsuit?
So I was just reading the first part of the article. The lawsuit was brought against Harvard on behalf of Asian American students who failed to gain admission. It goes to trial on Monday, and affirmative action policies across the country are at stake. The lawsuit was crafted by conservative advocates who have long fought racial admissions practices that traditionally benefited African American and Latino students, while lowering the chances of Asian students to be admitted. So that's the issue here. The conservative group is trying to reverse the 1978 Supreme Court case that upheld admissions policies that consider race of students. So basically, they're trying to get affirmative action reversed.
And from what I understand, they actually have an interesting case here, because you've got a bunch of, I guess, students that are saying, some Asian students that are saying they're getting passed up because they're more than qualified to be accepted into these schools, but in order to meet their affirmative action quotas, they're getting passed up on. And from what I understand in the article, some of the things that these schools are using to qualify some of these students getting into the school are pretty questionable. I'm not in a position to quote about exactly what it is, but I urge you to go check it out. It's an interesting lawsuit. I'm going to read a little bit more about it here. I was hoping I would be able to play the sound clip here so we could all get some more information while we listen to it. But as you guys know, we had a little bit of some technical difficulties before we started recording, and I wasn't able to get that going just yet, but hopefully in the near future we'll have that rolling.
I do think it's interesting that I thought Asian Americans were included in affirmative action, like for having better chances, or at least being part of that quota that schools had to meet. Are they not part of affirmative action?
I mean, they're supposed to, but I mean, once you're becoming one of the best performing people groups in terms of average family income in the country, ahead of white people, someone catches onto that and starts having to, I guess, correct it the other way.
Well, I mean, I guess that's what happens when you generalize entire races of people on statistical averages. So that part sucks about affirmative action.
You start to realize that the system is not necessarily oppressive. It's just the people that.
Well, the system is absolutely oppressive, but not in that way. We don't need to make it more oppressive to balance that out.
No, it's just, the outcome is exactly what people who are against it have been talking about for a long time. So I'm sure for the conservatives that helped craft this lawsuit, it's pretty much like I told you so type of situation going on here, because from as best I understand, there's a lot of the Asian communities behind them on this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're just about there at an hour. I think that's good enough to go ahead and cut it. We've covered a fair amount of what's going on here. Is there anything that anyone would like to discuss before we get out of here? Nothing, huh? Okay, well. Yeah. All right, well. I'd
just like to say.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Joe Biden leading that poll that we were talking about earlier. I guess it's safe to say that people aren't feeling the burn this time around.
Oh God, I hope not. I really hope not. I could do a whole episode just going off on how bad of an idea that is, but I'm sure plenty of people have already heard that enough. Why don't we just let him debate with Ted Cruz a little more? I love me a good Bernie and Ted debate, though, huh?
That was fun.
That sure was good. All right, well, keep an eye on the website, like we said, and keep an eye on the network. We got new stuff going up. We've got Amos's Shitlord Preachers podcast and Mike's new The Liberty Ginger podcast going up. And again, we're going to have to figure out something else to do when we run out of ideas if you're going to be covering the news cycle. Really cramping our style here, Mike.
I'm here to totally change your vibe.
I know. I like it. I'm excited to hear you guys' podcast up on our network. Okay. Well, don't forget to go ahead and check us out on all of the regular social media crap. You can find Think Liberty everywhere these days. And if there's anywhere we're not that you think we should be, you can go ahead and drop us a line at Facebook or on our website in the contact form or anything like that. Or if there's anything on the podcast that you noticed you want to yell at us for, you can go ahead and get a hold of us in the same ways. And we'll do our best to get back to you if we can. Please go and subscribe, review, leave us a review. You can tell us how much you love us or how bad you think we suck. It's all fair game on any of the mediums that you listen to us on, whether it's Overcast or Stitcher or iTunes. We are on Spotify now and iHeartRadio. And you can get all of our podcast episodes on YouTube as well. So be sure to go check those out. And all right. Well, on behalf of everyone that joined me this evening, to the listeners, thank you very much for your time. And thank you for listening to this episode. And to everyone that joined us, thank you guys very much for your time. And thanks for joining us here. Whether or not anyone likes it, we'll probably be back again.